Yo, uh, this is gonna be a quickie. I gotta run out of here, but we'll try to cook up an episode. All right, let's go. Let's go.
Bobo's gonna tell you a story, yo, bro. So you better listen in, 'cause you don't know where it is going to go. Bobo's gonna press a button, and then GPT will make him something that's gonna make us all giggle and laugh. And we all gonna write squiggles on our path in life. That's right, I don't know where this is going, but I know that we're having fun, so sit back and enjoy. Why? Because I'm about to make some noise with this weird ass prompt in this voice. And I don't know where it's going to go, but we're gonna have fun doing it, bro. So just kick back with Bobo and the great program tales.
Yeah, that's what we're calling it.
Yo, it's your boy, Bobo Yam Yams here with a quick episode. I gotta run. I just had this idea pop into my head on the way over here. I'm gonna have to head back out. So we're just gonna get this one cracking, alright? We don't got much time. Please make a psychological thriller story involving a first-person perspective narration following an investigative journalist who is trying to figure out the case of the missing as seen on TV 2000s era announcer, period. He then unfolds a grand conspiracy involving the inner circle of TV salespeople who secretly pull the strings and utilize their gadgets to do their own basically evil bidding, period. Also, please have it be 4 paragraphs and have words that a 12-year-old who is studying vocabulary would think would make the story better, period. All right, we gotta bang this one out. All right, here we go. We're banging this one out. All right, ready? All right, here we go. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah!
All right. It started with the face on the screen. The screen behind the curtain. I was sitting in my dimly lit apartment one rainy evening, my eyes glued to the TV as the usual news anchor droned on about yet another case of a missing person. But there was something strange about this one. The girl in the missing poster was too familiar. It wasn't just her face, it was something about her smile, the way her eyes were almost pleading for help. I couldn't shake it, and when the screen cut to commercial, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Like something was about to break open, and I'd be standing in the middle of it. I'm an investigative journalist. Nothing special, really. Just someone who's used to digging into stories that other people would rather forget. But this wasn't just another missing person case. It was a thread I had to pull. Something told me that if I followed this, it would lead to a place much darker than I could imagine. I started looking into her case. Her name, Emily Carter, 19 years old, college student. The usual story, but there were odd details no one was talking about. Her parents, very private, almost too private. The police, reluctantly offering information, like they were hiding something. It took me 2 weeks of digging to find a connection that stood out. Emily's disappearance wasn't just random. It was a part of a pattern. But as I investigated further, I realized I was being watched. It started with strange phone calls, the kind where the person on the other end says nothing, just breathing. Then, at night, I noticed figures lurking outside my apartment building. Not quite shadows, but people who moved too smoothly, too deliberately. And every time I tried to contact someone who might know more, my old sources, former colleagues, something always happened. They'd stopped responding. They'd disappear. Then one day, I stumbled upon something I shouldn't have. I was in an old library, digging through dusty archives, and there it was, in a small, crinkled folder buried underneath a mountain of unsorted papers, an old recording from a 2003 television broadcast. The words "Live" flashed in the corner of the screen. The news anchor's face was the same as always, calm, collected, but there was something behind his eyes, a flicker. I rewound it a few times, my heart pounding. In the background, a symbol appeared, hidden in the bottom corner of the screen. A triangle, but with lines crossing it in a way that looked almost like a logo for a secret society. I had seen it before. The TV station executive producers, the ones who controlled what went on air, the ones who had power in the shadows, pulling strings for their own gain. But I didn't understand yet. Not fully. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I tracked down a few of the people who worked behind the scenes at the station. Producers, salespeople, technicians. They all acted normal. Too normal. Every time I asked a question, they gave me answers that were too vague. They'd smile too much, and their eyes, always darting. It felt like I was speaking to puppets, each one controlled by something, someone. One night, I managed to get an interview with a former tech engineer who had worked on the station's high-end equipment. I was in a small diner, sitting across from him in a booth, my notebook ready. He was twitching, nervous. He kept checking over his shoulder, like he knew someone was listening. "The gadgets, you see," he whispered, leaning in. His voice was barely audible. "Not just for ratings. They control the audience. They control everything. The cameras, the lights. They've got this tech, this device that feeds in our brain." I thought he was crazy at first. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" "You think it's just entertainment?" He laughed bitterly. "They can make you see whatever they want you to see. And the people you're watching, they're all in on it. The anchors, the reporters, the salespeople. It's all rigged. They're pulling the strings. They're pulling the strings." I stared at him, my mind racing. What was he saying? A conspiracy? Was this really about the missing people, or was it something bigger? I pressed him, but he wouldn't say more. A few hours later, I found out why. He was found dead. The cause of death was ruled as a heart attack. But when I visited his apartment, there were no signs of struggle. No pills, no bottles of alcohol, no reason. Just a body that had suddenly dropped dead. I wasn't going to stop now. The more I uncovered, the more I realized I wasn't just dealing with a conspiracy. I was up against a machine, one that was designed to control every part of reality. The salespeople at the station weren't just selling products, they were selling ideas. They had these gadgets, like hidden transmitters, implanted in the equipment they used. These gadgets sent signals into people's minds while they watched. Oh my God. Subtle and almost invisible messages that altered perception, changed memories, even erased parts of reality. They didn't just sell toothpaste. They didn't just sell toothpaste. They sold loyalty, fear, rage. They created the world by controlling what people thought was real. The missing people, part of a sick experiment. People who had started to see the truth. People who were too close to the edge were quietly taken, vanished, because they were a threat. And Emily Carter, she wasn't just a missing person. She was a warning. I started piecing it all together. The higher-ups at the station, the producers, the tech guys, they were all involved. They were a part of a network that spanned far beyond the television. The audience didn't just watch the news, they were the news. The people who had watched and believed were feeding the system, fueling it. It was all controlled by the inner circle, the people who ran the station, the ones who controlled the narrative. I realized too late that the more I dug, the more I was becoming a part of their show. They were watching me now. Every step I took, every click, every word I typed, they had eyes everywhere, and I was getting closer to finding out too much. I didn't know how much longer I have before they come for me. Before the next commercial break, before the screen flickers out and I become just another missing name, lost in the shuffle. But I have to try. The truth has to come out. Somebody has to see it. Okay, ChatGPT, word. So that's what ChatGPT interpreted what I was asking as. But I was going for a little something more like, protecting the innocent, comma, can you make the people behind the scenes in this basically Billy Mays and the ShamWow guy and the literal as seen for TV voice from the 2000s era gadgets like Snuggies and ShamWows, but protect the innocent and don't use those brands because that would be wrong, period. Also make it kind of quirky and funny and include a barbecue bacon burger. I don't know. All right, hopefully this doesn't make like a super huge. Okay. All right, which one are we gonna do? All right, here we go. All right, this one. Yes, okay. All right, I'm gonna have to fly through this one because I have to leave. The Gadget Conspiracy. It all started with the barbecue bacon burger. I know, it sounds strange, but stick with me. I was eating a greasy little diner when I saw him, the guy on TV. His face was plastered across the screen in the diner, his smile so wide it almost seemed like it was glued on. You know the type. The infomercial pitchman. The kind who sells you things you never knew you needed until he told you, with that almost manic intensity, that you'd be lost without them. This guy wasn't just any pitchman, though. No, he was the king of gadgets, the sultan of stuff you didn't know you wanted. Let's call him Ronnie Flash. He was the one who introduced you to things like the Superb Scrub 2000 or the Mega Mop. All those shiny, useless devices that promised to revolutionize your life. His voice, smooth and slick, with just the right amount of urgency. Call now and we'll double your order, he'd say, and somehow you believed him. You wanted to believe him. But something about this latest pitch sent a chill down my spine. You see, I wasn't just some bored dinner patron mindlessly watching TV. I was an investigative journalist, the type who looks for stories under rocks and dark corners and places people didn't want you to look. And when Ronnie Flash's smiling face flashed across the screen with an ad for something called the Miracle Blanket Deluxe, I knew I was in trouble. The product itself was as ridiculous as you'd expect. A blanket with built-in armholes marketed as the ultimate comfort companion. But it wasn't the blanket that got my attention, it was the subtle details. The tiny flicker in the background, the way the camera zoomed in a little too much on Ronnie's face as he said, "If you're not buying this now, you're missing out on something big." I could feel it. There was something behind the curtain of all these products, something far darker than mismatched bedspreads and overpriced gadgets, so I set out to investigate. The deeper I dug, the weirder things got. First, I tracked down Ronnie Flash's real name. It was a bit like trying to find a needle in a haystack, except the haystack was full of press releases, fake testimonials, and credit card scams. But eventually I found him. Ronnie, who was really named Carol Spalding, had been in the TV sales game for over 2 decades. He sold everything from the Ultimate Scraper, which was literally just a glorified plastic spatula, to the Giga Glove, a bizarre oversized mitten that you could supposedly use for everything from washing your car to massaging your stress away. The more I learned, the more it became clear that Carl, or Ronnie, or whatever he called himself today, was more than just a salesman. He was a part of something much bigger, a network of TV pitchmen, producers, and yes, even gadget gurus who had secretly come together to push more than just quirky products. They were using their infomercial empire to control the public. It wasn't just about selling you a Snuggie knockoff or a self-watering plant pot. No, it was about shaping you. They had gadgets designed not just for your kitchen, but for your brain. Take the Magic Mopper 3000, for instance. Sure, it looked just like a fancy floor mop, but in the hands of the right people, it could send subliminal messages directly into your subconscious as you mopped the floor, reinforcing ideas and beliefs you didn't even know you had. Maybe you didn't want that extra set of super plush towels, but after seeing the infomercial, you were convinced you did, and boom, another sale. The more I researched, the more I realized that the products weren't just being pushed on TV. These guys, Ronnie Flash and his band of merry infomercial clowns, had infiltrated every corner of media. They were the puppet masters behind the scenes. They weren't just selling kitchen gadgets, they were selling control. And if you bought into their word, you were a part of it. That's when I started connecting the dots to the missing persons case. People, real people who somehow disappeared, leaving only their vague TV appearances behind. People like Lisa Reynolds, who vanished after being on a Super Kitchen commercial, or Jason Burke, who'd shown up on an ad for Backyard Barbecue Bonanza Kit, and it was last seen in a cooking segment that never aired. It was like they pulled into the machine, never to be seen again. I needed to know how deep this went, so I decided to attend one of the live infomercial tapings. I figured I'd get a chance to catch Ronnie Flash in action and maybe find some answers. I knew it was risky, but sometimes a journalist has to risk it all for the truth, right? I ended up at a soundstage, surrounded by brightly colored props and fake product boxes. A producer in a headset gave me the usual tour, explaining the products. They were like revolutionary, but there was something off. The smiles from the staff were too wide, the pitchmen were too polished, their hair too perfectly styled, and when I looked around the room, I noticed something strange. There were cameras in every corner, but not just for filming, no. These cameras weren't just watching the audience, they were watching me. Then I realized the truth. These people weren't just selling products, they were selling minds. And I wasn't just a journalist in the crowd, I was another test subject. They had been using these gadgets, these innocuous infomercial products, to brainwash us, to make us buy into their crazy world of shiny, useless things and warped beliefs. And there, in the middle of it all, I saw it. A barbecue bacon burger. A prop, of course, but the burger was real. And somehow I knew it was more than just food. It was the final piece of the puzzle. The marketing geniuses had realized that by trying their products to indulgent pleasures like a juicy, crispy barbecue bacon burger, they could hook people in emotionally. It wasn't just about the sale, it was about creating an addiction, a craving. Once you took a bite, you were hooked on the whole experience. You couldn't resist. As I walked away from the set, my head was spinning. The conspiracy ran deeper than I imagined. But one thing was clear. If I didn't expose this, the people behind the scenes would keep selling us lies like a sham-like product at a time. Maybe one day someone would take a stand, but for now, all I could do was tell the story. At least the barbecue bacon burger was good. All right, 17 minutes. That is perfect. Thank you hold on. Thank you very much. Let's go! We got to get out of here, and I love you all, and have a good night.